good evening and thank you all for coming. It's really wonderful to have you all here. We have met at the briefing also, except Mr. Pai couldn't join us, so I'll just go through it a little bit. This is, of course, season 2 of the Mint Leadership Dialogues. This is presented in partnership with JSA Advocates and Solicitors. Last year we did the first series, we did 5 discussions, like I was telling you, we did 5 discussions around the country, and last year we focused on per capita income. Last year Mr. Trump had yet not come in, so the issues that we have today were not there. But we had this grand vision of, we still have, right, of India becoming a developed country by 2047. And our point from Mint was that, that's nice, we should do that. What about the skew in the per capita income? Because there are parts of India that have per capita income comparable to the West, and parts of India that are way below, right? So last year, as you would recognize probably most of the faces that we showed there, we had some very tall leaders come and debate on that subject. It was a very exciting series, and at the end of the series what we did is, this particular series, it culminates in the Mint India Investment Summit that we do every year in March in Mumbai. That is our flagship summit of Mint. Over there we released a report on the key takeaways and the main points that were discussed during those 5. We plan to do the same this year too. This year, of course, things have changed. While we still maintain that vision of the advanced economy by 2047, we are taking a slightly backward step and looking at what are the challenges that are extant today, right? And how do we meet them? We have already done 2 discussions this year, one in Delhi and one in Mumbai. And both were very good. In fact, the Delhi one was very interesting because it happened in between August 7th and August 27th, right? When the first tariffs came and then the second set of 25% tariffs came from the US. So that particular discussion, it happened before, probably a week before 27th. I think it was on 19th August that we had that discussion. And we had some textile leaders there. We had a very good exchange of ideas. Also, one of the reasons why we do these conversations with top leaders like yourself is for us to not just mean to understand what you all are thinking, but for you to understand what you all are thinking, right? And so the format of this discussion is not going to be a Q&A with me. I am, of course, going to moderate. I am going to throw questions at you, but I'd much rather that you talk to each other, right? If you have points to make basis what somebody is saying, feel free to come in. So today, if we look at it, there are few areas that are as dynamic in defining India's future as technology. And for today's topic, which is the Tightrope, building competitive advantage in India's tech ecosystem, we really couldn't ask for a stronger group of leaders than those who are present at the table today. So we have a slideshow. We will introduce you all quickly. Mr. Mohandas Pai, TV Mohandas Pai, Chairman of Iron Capital Partners. Everybody knows Mr. Pai, really doesn't need an introduction. He's one of India's most respected investors and public intellectuals. He's been a long-time advocate of innovation-led growth and digital capability building. Through Iron Capital and his role in various startups and funds, he has been instrumental in shaping India's venture ecosystem. Next, we have Mr. Venkatraman Narayanan, Managing Director of Happiest Minds Technologies. Venkat has taken my suggestion on the dress code very seriously and has come with a very nice, pleasant looking shirt, looking good. Venkat leads Happiest Minds. That also needs no introduction. The Happiest Minds has become synonymous with digital transformation across industries. It has a focus on cloud, AI, analytics, cybersecurity, works with global enterprises to accelerate innovation and productivity. Mr. GNV Subbarao is the global head of Operation Centers, Process Automation, ABB India. ABB, as we all know, is a Swiss-Swedish multinational. So if I get something wrong in my intros, please point it out, because this is all web research. It's an industrial technology powerhouse at the heart of automation, electrification and digital manufacturing. Mr. Subbarao oversees ABB's global operation centers from India, which is a very crucial role. Mr. Sudhir Sethi, sitting next to me, the founder and chairman of how do you pronounce that? Chirate?
Chirate.
Okay. Chirate. I wanted to ask you that before the discussion, didn't get the opportunity. Chirate Ventures. He is one of India's most seasoned venture investors. He has backed more than 100 companies across technology, consumer, and deep tech sectors. Chirate has been a key driver of India's startup ecosystem and has invested early in several companies that are defining the future of AI, SaaS, health tech, and frontier innovation. Next, we have Mr. Faiz Shakir, he is the Vice President and Managing Director for India and Asia Pacific Japan for Nutanix. Faiz leads operations for Nutanix, which is a global pioneer in cloud infrastructure, data management, and hybrid multi-cloud solutions. Enterprises worldwide are rethinking their data architecture, and Nutanix sits at the core of this transformation, of the digital transformation, helping your customers modernize IT and data capabilities. We have Manish Gupta, who's yet to join us. He is in a call. He will join us shortly, but I'll still introduce him. He's been a long-term man at Indegene. We all know him. He is now the chairman and the CEO of Indegene, which is one of India's most successful homegrown global companies, which is transforming healthcare through digital analytics and AI. We have Narendra Sen, founder and CEO of RagBank Data Center. Is a bit of a twist. RagBank Data Centers is building one of India's premier data center and cloud infrastructure platforms. It's building a state-of-the-art AI data center park in Raipur. It's spread over 13.5 acres. Is that right?
Yeah, that's
13.5 acres is a lot of land. It's being built with an initial investment of 1,000 crore.
That's correct.
And you plan to get 7 megawatts up by December and
yes.
100 megawatts by when?
So depend on demand, but I believe by 2026 we'll be able to.
26 is like next
year, a few months away.
Yeah. So end of the 2026 because
fantastic.
Some pipeline demand is there.
Then we have Mr. Deepak NG, is the Managing Director India for Dassault Systems. Dassault, more popularly known in India for the Rafale and the Mirage 2000 aircraft. Of course, Dassault Systems is a software company. In case you didn't know, it's the second biggest software company in Europe. Isn't that right? It is after SAP. It is the second largest. Dassault, your parent earlier was Dassault Aviation, correct?
So it's now they make physical aircrafts, we make virtual aircrafts.
Yeah.
That's the
So now, but now
you're family.
Now you're separated and you're
no. It's same holding.
Same holding.
So family is common.
But you were a subsidiary of the aviation company earlier, no?
It's an independent listed company in France. We shifted from there,
Paris.
Unfortunately. I know the boat ride is good there, but we shifted from there and we have a bigger campus in Vélizy, which is like 50 kilometers from the main city of Paris. But still that office, they have some Dassault Aviation and we have one small office from Dassault Systems also.
So the boat ride can happen?
Boat ride can still happen.
Okay, and of course Dassault Systems is one of the world's leading providers of 3D design and engineering software. And it has deep strengths in digital manufacturing, simulation, as well as PLM, product lifecycle management. And you service different industries across automotive, aerospace, life sciences, and healthcare as well, infrastructure, right? And we have Sajay Singh. Sajay Singh is a partner of JSA Advocates and Solicitors. Special thanks to JSA and Sajay for partnering with Mint for this initiative. Sajay is a leading voice on technology, law and regulation, and JSA, of course, as we all know, is a full-service Indian law firm. It has more than 700 professionals across 7 cities. It advises corporates, global companies, investors and governments. And since I'm here, just to introduce myself, I am Alokesh Bhattacharya. I'm Deputy Managing Editor of Mint. And my role there is to co-edit the front page of the newspaper and do discussions like these, which I equally enjoy. So I'll just take 5 minutes to set some context, even though sometimes I feel like an imposter setting context in front of people who know the context, in and out, because you're living it every day. But if we look at today's topic on the competitiveness of India's tech ecosystem, it has the underpinnings of several challenges that we face. We keep talking about it. So challenges like infrastructure versus innovation, right? Digital and physical gaps are still constrain our deep tech and AI heavy ventures, the scaling up. Data center compute infrastructure emerging, you're contributing. Yesterday we had a big deal. Hopefully, we'll go up on that parameter soon. Capital depth as well as capital patience. Mr. Pai was talking about capital, just before we started this discussion. We have capital, but maybe not enough patient capital, right? Because a lot of venture funds, family offices often push for quick exits instead of long gestation R&D phase, which is understandable, but it is a challenge. There is an R&D deficit, and academic linkages are not so strong. There's work in progress, a lot of work going on, but still a lot of work left to be done. R&D spending is less than 1% of our GDP, which is very, very low. Talent density and skill mismatch is something that all of you are grappling with on a regular basis, right? So that is another issue. Volatility in policy and regulatory areas, rules keep changing, that's a major problem. Manufacturing and technology disconnect. Make in India has worked, but not fully yet with its innovate in India agenda. So that has to, innovation in India, like Mr. Pai was saying, what are the innovation, a lot of innovation happening in India that is probably not captured adequately. We don't have really strong global brands. Zoho, Freshworks have done a great job, but most of our startups, they are still domestically focused, so that building a global brand is something that needs to be done. Energy intensity, sustainability is another. Data economy needs massive amounts of energy. The data centers that are being built, that are going to be built, they need huge, huge amounts of energy. Consistent, reliable energy, right?
Absolutely.
I don't know if you get that in right.
Yeah.
That is the thing. And gender and inclusion gaps, of course, are there, which we have been discussing for quite some time. So, like I said, we'll try and keep this open and have a discussion amongst you folks. It's like a sort of a group discussion in college that you would have done, a debate. Feel free to say a point contrary to what somebody is saying if you feel strongly about it. If you want to add something to it, feel free to do that too. But we'll start off with, like we discussed earlier, we'll start off with a rapid fire. Some 3 short questions, right? And I would like responses from everybody so that we have a degree of understanding as to where you stand on these issues. So if we would say that in one word, how would you describe India's tech movement right now? Is it breakout? Is it balancing act? Or are we at a crossroads? Mr. Pai?
No, I would say breakout.
Breakout, that's very, very encouraging.
Crossroads.
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 Okay.
I would say balancing act.
Balancing act.
Yeah.
I would go with crossroads too.
Balancing act.
Balancing act.
I would go with crossroads.
Crossroads.
I just felt I didn't realize that we had to choose one of
You
these.
can always say 2 of the 3.
No, I would use the word pervasive
Okay.
because I think technology is now going into every field in India. So if somebody was to ask me that question and not give me the 3 options, I would say pervasive. And we are dealing with technology at every level, and we can talk about AI when we probably will talk a little bit, and the government initiatives. So I would say more I would go with pervasive than with any of those 3 that you mentioned.
Okay. So you are the only one saying pervasive and Mr. Pai is the only one saying breakout, right? Anybody else said breakout? No. Why is it breakout?
Look, there are 3 things required to be a great tech power. Human capital, physical capital, financial capital. We have the human capital. We may not have the top 5% that the US has, China now has, Europe does not have, but we have the human capital. We have the physical capital in terms of data centers coming up. We have some 2 gigawatts now, we're going to 3 gigawatts 1 year. We're building it up, and in the horizon you can see that. We don't have the financial capital. Unless you have money. For example, ChatGPT and OpenAI is saying 500 billion. And he's able to get the money. People are signing up. What are we talking about? 11,000 crore stupid policy from the government of India which has got no meaning. Some GPUs coming from NVIDIA which they're going to put all up, we've never heard of it. Some small dose being given. What are we doing? China invested $150 billion in AI starting 7 years ago. They put $200 billion in EV over the last 10 years to create the system. What are we doing? So we need capital. And I'll give one piece of data. In the last 10 years, 2014 to 24, US invested $2.35 trillion in venture and startups. China, 845 billion. We did only 160 billion. Out of 160 billion, maybe 70% came from overseas. So where is the capital? If you have the capital, we can leverage all that quickly. So I feel we are in the breakout point where a lot of exciting innovations happening on the edge, but they need capital, dollops of capital to grow, and they'll tackle the global markets. If you've been to the FinTech event in Mumbai recently, you'll find a lot of great innovation happening, which is not happening in very many countries. I can see it happening only in 2-3 countries, China, US, and India. Now most of the tech innovation happening, China, US, India. China, capital and great innovation, people. America, the same, where the whole world goes there. India, we don't have capital. Give us capital, and then we'll show what we can do in 2 or 3 years.
The reason I said crossroad is exactly the same point which Mohan made. We see a lot of innovative companies. I mean, as a firm, we see only about 4,000 companies a year. And these are in AI, semiconductors, space, electronics, etc., the whole range of things. Now, what we are seeing is, and I'll give you our example because it's symbolic of the whole thing. If you look at the kind of companies, they have a new product, new business model, new technology, new GTM, everything is new. And yesterday when we started about 19 years back, it used to be our situation amongst the news. Today it's an and situation. So it's a very powerful, heady kind of this thing. But if I look at the amount of capital which goes into, and this is risk capital. Risk capital, we are still dependent on international capital to come in. In the last 5 years, E and VC put together has been about $300 billion worth of investing. I don't believe more than 10-12% is from India. And if that's the case, then we ourselves as Indians are not taking enough risk in funding these startups, because we should not expect global capital to come in and take that high risk. Now, and there are methods to do this, by the way, I'll get into that later. But domestic capital is a lot. I mean, you take public markets. Public markets, last 5 months or so, FIs have gone, and a lot of capital has gone into supporting public markets. So it is comparable to what's happening in the what's happening with the FIs, and it's in trillions of dollars. India has capital. Just to give you a very simple example, we did a research just before COVID. The top 5 IT services companies, the amount of capital they spent on share buybacks and dividends crossed $40 billion, right? So there is corporate money, there is financial, the family offices, there is institutions, banks, insurance, and so on and so forth. So it is imperative to my mind for the growth of innovation, which is really paralyzed right now. I mean, I can see 60, 70 kinds of innovations happening in all these sectors put together. And we are at a crossroad. We're at a crossroad because if risk capital doesn't come in, it is going to be very, very difficult to build this. Now, I do know, and I think Mohan, of course, perhaps I think behind that, there's a fund called RDIF, which the government announced. It's a 1 lakh crore fund for tech. That is a phenomenal, as and when it gets executed, it's a phenomenal boost to risk capital in the country. But we must do this ourselves. There is no question about it. And there's a lot of capital which flows into real estate. There's a lot of capital which flows into public markets. Public market capital, very little goes inside a company. We need capital to go inside a company to build new companies who can go in India and outside.
Just to that, Sudhir, you didn't mention the government. Of course, you did mention the fund. But Mohan mentioned the US government, which is supporting the growth of technology.
20 billion a year.
So what are your views on that? Because I think if the government starts supporting the development of technology in deep tech, that in itself will be an incentive for other capital that you mentioned to go in.
What are the major sources of capital into venture? Endowments. They don't allow endowments to invest. Under section 11 and 12, investing in AIFs is not an option for endowments. Their endowments are worth maybe 25, 30 billion, maybe 30, 40 lakh crores. Insurance, IRDA doesn't allow them to put into fund of funds and into funds. They're not investing. We got a AUM of something like 75-80 lakh crores among all the insurance companies. They don't invest. Pension funds, about 40 lakh crores, don't invest. These are major sources. And then R&D grants. What grants that our government give? Government gives to IITs only their own cronies, their own circle, because they think, they're the only country where they use public money to compete against the private sector. We went to NASA on a tour from IMA, and they told us, we will not put taxpayers' money into areas where we compete with taxpayers. We'll put into blue sky research where we help them. Here, use taxpayers' money to compete with taxpayers and give it to your own institutions which are not open. So I think we got a policy problem in the paralysis that has to be done, be opened up. And the next thing is 1 lakh crore. We've spoken about it for 2 years. And just yesterday there was a news item from that 50,000 crore National Investment Fund, which is that research fund. They're just talking about how to deploy, not deployment. I mean, they talk about this big number. By the time they deploy, we'll be half dead. You see, the problem is policy, lack of understanding. That money has to come because we need long-term money. Long-term money is endowment money, is insurance money, your pension money, because they got a long cycle of 10, 15, 20 years, and other monies can follow that. We don't have that base. We're getting Canadian pension fund come here and invest, taking the India risk, the currency risk, and still looking long-term and trying to make money.
What I was saying is like, it can be an advantage or sometimes challenging. The reason because of the crossroads is some point of time where each state is competing. It can be a healthy competition also. So the policies are also different, right? So for emerging sectors or as emerging segment, to your point, will it make sense to have a common policy across from where the funds can be diverted for better, you said about R&D, right? R&D 1%. It's definitely not at all in the range where you can actually put up more and more resources on developing something. But will there be a time where for the upcoming industry or the trends what we are seeing, we'll have a common policy across the country?
Let me talk about what I think is feasible in a speedy manner and in an agile manner. I think I am focusing very clearly on suggesting that private capital, there is a lot of money. And it will, if that is released, okay, and that means policy decisions to release that capital. There is as an example, additional tax benefit to invest in public markets. That money doesn't go into companies. So why that? So your tax structure today enables money to go in large capital pools to public markets. Now let's reverse that and say, not incentivate private capital into private companies, but make it equal. Then you're leaving it on private capital to say, I will choose now because now it's a level playing ground. That itself, it doesn't impact. I agree with Mohan, there's a lot of money in insurance, etc., but that may have its own challenges. But let's fast release private capital. There's a couple of $1 trillion in private capital in the country today. Let's release part of that. Okay? That's a major thing in the country.
Yeah, I think in the last 4-5 years, there have been some very exciting companies that have been founded. But there's also this clear undercurrent within the investor community to have them move to the Silicon Valley, for example. So whenever they have an exciting product, they have a stack that's really good, they literally force CEOs, founders, and I can, offline name a few of them, have been compelled to move to the US, work in that market, change the headquarters from Bangalore possibly to San Francisco, San Jose, wherever, and exciting companies with revenues almost touching $100 billion have been compelled to move. So there is capital, but that capital says, this is not the right place to put it, why don't you move there? We'll also get a lot of local support. You can probably create a hub and spoke model, have engineering staff in Bangalore, but move your business and your headquarters. And then essentially what was incubated in India does not remain an Indian company. So I completely agree with Mr. Pai, right? There's capital in terms of human capital. There's a lot of tech savviness that we have. But I don't think we have got the backing that one deserves in a country of this size and scale.
Fairs, that move can also be IP related. So if you are creating IP in India, code cannot be patented. It can be patented in the US.
Yeah.
So one of the things about technology and one of the things about IP rights is to move it to a jurisdiction where the protections are better and all encompassing, and all options are available. So a lot of times when a product is being developed or you're reaching that level, you move the headquarters to the US while the development may continue to happen in India. So IP protection may be another issue, not just getting capital.
Yeah, while I absolutely agree with you, that could be one of the reasons. I think investors and large private equities are looking at it more from eventually what revenues could come out of the Western world, provided you're a company headquartered in the right space.
And you can monetize the IP much better in
Sure.
the US.
You're possibly right, yeah.
In one word, how would you describe India's tech moment right now? Breakout, balancing act, or crossroads?
Actually, I unfortunately can't do it because in my head, it's crossroads and breakout.
Okay.
Very clearly. And the reason I say that is crossroads because we have a lot of work to do. But breakout because there is, I think, almost like forces converging, right? And giving us an amazing opportunity. And when I say forces, there is talent, there is also a rising aspiration. And if you see what's happening in the world right now, it almost seems like a World War II scenario. If you think about what happened in the United States, and I'm talking about the geopolitics perspective, things like Institute of Advanced Study in Princeton, right? A bunch of really cutting-edge centers got set up that point of time. When scientists, Jews, right, all these people just migrated to the US, and their talent quotient just went into a different league. And when you talk about a true cutting-edge tech, it always follows cutting-edge science. Backtrack any deep tech innovation, it comes from somewhere, whether it's internet, AI, or whatever it is, somebody actually solving some problem without worrying about how it's going to get commercialized. Then obviously people like us jump in and say, well, how do we make some product out of it? Now that's what happened in the US at that point of time. India today has that opportunity. There are enough and more people who, because of what's happening, especially in the United States, want to come back, right? And these are cutting edge people who are doing really high-end work in those places. And that's the reason I say, using that, we could actually be at a breakout moment.
Okay. Now I had the benefit of hearing all of them.
Yeah.
Actually, I would focus on the human part because I think quite a bit has been sent on the financial part. The human part is today, the tech landscape of India is 95% services people. Let's not miss that. So if you're talking about, transformation, bringing in capital, getting those experts start going down the AI path, which is what we should do, you're going to leave 98 or even 100% of the people behind. I think there is a huge amount of transformation that needs to happen of the people that we have today. It's just not
in the services industry.
The service industry. Most of the tech. Let's take a head count. You got
How can we do that?
That's the interesting part. I think today your Mint talks about how TCS is starting to invest into a data center. It's just one part. 35,000 crores they generate in terms of cash. They're going to put an equivalent amount of money, 6 gigawatts is what they're talking about, and which is at 5 million. Some crazy amount of money, 5 billion. Let's say it's about 5 billion is what they're talking about in terms of investments. It'll happen by 2030. You need to start repurposing that, like Mr. Sethi said. There's so much of money that's gone back as paid out as dividends or buybacks. You need to start plowing that into companies. Keep away from quarter-on-quarter profitability pressures. I know we are facing that. Mr. Pai, he's no longer than that. Yes, he's free from that.
I'll explain.
Yeah,
Let him finish.
yeah. So what happens is you need to start getting out of that, free up capital from there, help that to transform the entire set of people that are today there. Which I want to say this in another point that you had. We are missing the bus on the transformation.
Look, let me explain. Okay.
Yeah.
Look, IBM was the number one many years ago.
Yes.
The low start, mainframe operating system. Microsoft came, client-server operating system, along with others, and they created this PC culture with server technology, correct?
Yeah.
And then we had the SAPs and Oracles come with enterprise. And then came the internet. The internet came with Google, it came with Meta, it came with Salesforce.com, etc., right? And then we have all these ChatGPT, AI companies coming. What does this show? Every tectonic shift in technology has led to new companies coming, not incumbents. Why is that? The incumbents are very good in what they do, they'll continue. But new companies have to come to bring in innovation with a very good view. The services companies will not be transformation agents in AI and everybody else. They will use AI to transform their clients and enterprise. That's what they're going to do and dominate the market. That's going to happen. They're not going to be in LLMs. They're going to be in vertical LLMs and use of AI in apps, which they're going to do. They do a great job training the people, putting the money. I don't think TCS should put money into data center. They should use him as somebody else or Google and pay them a little bit of money, put money elsewhere. But that's a different story. So I think we need new companies. The old companies cannot do it. It's like SBI wanting to be a Goldman Sachs. They can't do it. It's not in the DNA. So new companies have come up. Now you must scale them up. They must go 100% year on year and they must do it. They are the ones who are going to break out. They are the ones who are going to do it. The service company will remain service company like commercial banks.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important to understand this and not hanker about, saying this guy should do it. They're not going to do it. They're not going to use the cap. That's not the job.
So let's go to a new company.
Yeah, new
Right,
companies
right
are
back
required.
then,
They're there.
you are a perfect example of this whole debate that is happening around there. You need capital. You are
If somebody gives you 5 billion, what will you do, man?
I'll put buy the
go
GPUs.
crazy. Apart from going crazy.
5 billion.
So give me 5 billion, I'll build a world's fastest supercomputer in the country. So our research scientists should not depend on US technology and share patents. So the thought behind it, the capital is constrained, and that's why I mentioned the balancing, because the world after China, every company started coming to India, and India itself is a large billion user internet market, and basis on our numbers, all OpenAI or look at every US company make their numbers. But we should enable more and more companies in the country, building the foundation models and empower entire world. So then we can create the world equilibrium, or because our approach is not monopoly. Our approach is like if you build a technology, we'll give it to the other, like what we have done with the UPI and other thing. But capital is constrained. It's a big constraint. Policies is also equally important. We have talent. Then another thing which we can see, because of the AI, the impact is huge. Imagine the SOC in data center. We operate 7-8 people's watch 24/7 that what is happening, what traffic is coming. Now some developer come up with app agent, SOC agent, remove those 6 people. Now the agent is working 24/7, 365. The productivity has grown like 7 to 8x, 10x, depend on the application and use
Jobs
case.
have not gone up.
Jobs has not gone up, and the reskill is equally important. And I think the government has to have, and they have right people. They are trying, but they are not matching the speed which world is moving that fast. They are doing the efforts. I'm not saying they are not making efforts.
So let me come to Mr. Rao.
Yeah.
What is your view on this whole thing? I mean, it's with due respect to everybody, it's easy to say OpenAI is investing 500 billion, they're getting the money. Does India really have that kind of, and given the European roots of your organization, how do you look at it from an outsider's, even though you're from here only, but you still have that DNA, right? So how do you look at it from an outsider's perspective? Is that kind of capital really deployable in India? Because from what I understand, Indians are also very skeptical about pensions and this kind of money going into risky kind of assets like markets or startup investing, which is probably one of the reasons why that money is not being deployed. So what is your view on this whole issue?
I think capital will remain a matter of debate for a long time. I mean, how do you get capital? How do you deploy them? Where do you deploy them? And that is something that we really have to grapple with, confront it first of all, and then try to come out with some solutions. If you ask me what's the European view, I think Europe still looks at us as a talent, pool, a pretty large one, and they would always look at how we best utilize this talent, and not necessarily for our benefit. Okay, I mean in the sense India's benefit. Why should it be so, as per them? Okay, and that in their I think they have every right to think so. But if you ask me what we should be doing, yes, I think we'll have to take some hard decisions, and that's why I said it's maybe a balancing act that we'll have to go through to choose where do we get the capital from, and once we get it, where do we invest it? Do we continue to invest it on the services sector and develop it further, or do we think in the future we'll also need an equally vibrant, strong manufacturing sector? And if we start giving it a priority that we give now, will it be okay for us as a country 20 years hence or 10 years hence? And that is something that I think needs a lot of thought to go in, because we'll have to understand one thing, while a lot of things have happened in spite of the government due to small initiatives within the country on the services sector, there's a dearth of places, talent for manufacturing abroad. There are many things which, let's say, Europe either doesn't want to do on the manufacturing side, or it says, look, I can't do it. I can't do it due to various constraints, and which includes even the talent constraint that they have usually. For me, I mean, as per me and as per a lot of us in India, we think that is a golden opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to bring in more and more of manufacturing, while others are not too eager for it. And then I give you an example of what we do in India. We have a very, I have this 5,000 strong R&D and engineering team. We have local teams that has manufacturing, assembly, etc., that caters to the local markets. And then we also have a service sector, the business service sector. So when we look at the possibilities of what we can do for ourselves, through the service sector plus the R&D and engineering, we can make our local production so much more competitive. Okay, so just scale it up and apply it to India. How will it work out if we bring in more and more manufacturing sectors, plants, make use of the technology and services that we already have here? So instead of they only contributing to somebody abroad, we contribute to our own thing so that we can leapfrog into something which is maybe 50 years away and make it available 20 years for us.
So what about the GCCs like yourself? There are like 2,000 GCCs in India now and climbing, and there's a lot of talk about how innovative the GCCs are, and you're no longer just captive centers, right? You're doing a lot of R&D, doing a lot of innovation out of India, and you are many of the GCCs are also working for external clients, right? Not just their parent companies. How is that contributing to India's competitive edge? Is it only contributing to the edge you're giving your parent, or is that going to percolate down to our, kind of ecosystem in some way?
Yeah, it does. So I would look at it as a short and, let's say, medium term thing. I won't even dare to look at what happens in the long term. So when I look at a short term thing, it generates a lot of jobs. It generates, it caters to the talent that we already have here. And that is something that we have been doing for the last 10 to 15 years. And that is sort of settled. But if I look at what happens now in the next few years, and which I would think is a medium term, I would say the knowledge that we have gained over the last 15 years and what we gain exponentially at an exponential speed in the next 5 years would mean that the self-sufficiency of knowledge and the ownership of knowledge grows in India.
Yeah.
And there is no what could I say? There is no compulsion that I work for a multinational today in the GCC and I don't switch over to a local company tomorrow. That is something that we see all the while. A lot of our good talent who decide that, look, I'm going to work for a different sort of industry and not necessarily for a GCC and not necessarily for a multinational. If that happens more and more, and if that person decides that he's going to stay here if we're able to attract him or retain him here in the country, then the knowledge that he has gained for maybe 20 years, the experience, not just the knowledge. Let's remember, it is a global experience that we have gained. We would go all around the world, commission different types of plants. It could be an oil and gas in the deep sea. It could be heavy mining, metals, etc. All that is available to the country. And that's why I said when you bring in manufacturing more and more, you have this talent to promote, to quicken up the progress. So what could normally take 30 years or 40 years could be done now with the available talent, maybe in 15 years, because it's all there. The global experience that resides in these GCCs
Capital
is something.
Capital is required.
Yes, capital is the only thing that we'll have to sort out. It's unimaginable because it's not from one country that they have gained this knowledge.
In Bangalore, we have 350,000 chip designers, testers, and embedded software people. 50,000 of them have got more than 10, 15 years experience with a fantastic pool. I don't think any other country has got, barring the US, has got such a thick pool. Now they are creating entire new chipsets, they're cutting edge. But we need to give them capital to start their own companies. If the team leaves and says, I want capital, capital is not available. It'll take 2 or 3 years for them to do. We are funding a few of them, and it's difficult to get further rounds because they need capital for 3 or 4 years.
Exactly.
So we need the capital flow to come to do cutting edge work, which is happening, and that is the biggest concern. Like he said, the knowledge here is unbelievable.
Yes.
The sophistication of the knowledge here in GCCs, in our service companies, in all this collection of talent is unbelievable. Very sophisticated, very global, with deep experience today.
Yeah, and the choice that I spoke about, Shalok, is that if you don't do that right now, because it's a matter of choice, then there's a very good chance that these guys fly away to some other place, which is actually beckoning them. And then what we have built over 15 years, we stand to lose.
While we are all focusing on the high tech, and there's no question GCC adds to the pool, but that and capital is shortage, I think we've discussed a lot. But if I remember our early days when we started investing, the entrepreneur pool in North India came from HCL and South India came from Wipro. Because these two companies had their own computer systems designed, and this was 99, 2000, 2001. These are people who knew how to develop products. And then of course, it morphed into Google, it morphed into a lot of other things. But India is not one layer of innovation. If you look at GCCs, if you look at the 350,000 engineers, if you look at the 3 million people in Bengaluru, perhaps over in IT, but there are different layers of technology. There's high tech, let's call it for the sake of simplicity, medium tech, there's low tech. Okay? There are low-hanging fruits in the country which cannot be ignored, which require less capital. Now, there are 1 billion people in India who need insurance. There are 1 billion people in India who need consumer lending. 100 million enterprise, small and medium enterprise who need trade credit. There are at least 200 million farmers who need technology to see what to do. Now, these are not very high tech at the end of the day. You provide very high-end AI to a farmer, he doesn't know how to use it overall. So the question is, these solutions are found, and I'll give you a very interesting example. Packaging is the biggest polluter in e-commerce today. One of the biggest polluters. Okay, you have
Not just e-commerce, huh? Not just e-commerce.
So,
It is
e-commerce
the biggest
amplified
polluter across. Yeah.
And I met an entrepreneur, and he said he had something very interesting, and he put 3 eggs in a packaging box, and he asked my colleagues who were judges in that contest, he said, please throw it as far as you can, and we didn't know what was inside the box. He threw it, and then he went maybe 50-60 feet away. He opened the box, and the 3 eggs had not broken. Now that I thought was very simple. But he then took the packaging, which he had developed himself with no more than a few lakh rupees, and put them in a bottle of water and poured that bottle, and that packaging dissolved in about 30 seconds. And that packaging, that thing he put it into a pot and said, this is now manure for the plant. Very, very innovative. He's unable to find customers. He's unable to find risk capital people beyond a certain initial few lakh rupees. We've seen entrepreneurs at that level, right? And for instance, India doesn't have a grant system. One of our entrepreneurs got picked up by the Polish government, and they gave at least a 5-year window for grants to shift to Poland. He shifted, and he's into AI robotics for intelligent prosthetics. Okay, so right at each layer, the needs are very different, but you find innovation at each layer. The question is, can we parallelly get to the low-hanging fruits? The high-hanging fruits need lots of capital. We've invested about $240 million in the last 15 years in high tech. Okay, and from the value created, 70% has been only done by Indian capital. Okay, only 30% is foreign capital. Foreign capital is not coming to fund risk at any layer right now. So I come back to domestic capital and say, at each layer, release it.
So Sajay, is there any legal, hurdle to what Mr. Pai was saying and others were also saying about pension funds and insurance money coming into, the risk capital? What is your understanding of this whole situation?
So I think what was being referred to was several activities, be it CSR, be it various activities that the government wants you to put money away for. Those activities have to demonstrate something good that comes out of that money. That money cannot be put to make more money. And when we talk about risk capital, we are using two words, risk and capital. Both of those words are taboo for a lot of money that gets collected, and there are large chunks of money under various heads. We keep talking about pension funds. Canadian pension funds are coming to India, but Indian sort of pension funds will not put money in the same places. But why should they? The risk is just unbelievable. And we are talking about the people of Canada. There are very few people there and lots of money. Here there are so many more people that money has to take care of. And their income, their needs are, if they are not met by the pension fund, if something happens. So therefore the government policies are risk averse. That money cannot be put into these anything which carries risk, and that's a problem.
Look, let me give data. I think it's important to get data because Delhi thinking is antiquated. 10 lakh crores is the total collection of income and subscription to the insurance companies every year. Can't you put 1%, 10,000 crores? That's all. On AUM of 80 lakh crores, 10,000 crores per year. Is that too much? How much money comes into pension? 5 lakh crores a year. Put 1%, 5,000 crores. 5,000 crores on, let's say, 40 lakh crores. It's a small amount of money, the rounding of error, right? You compound it over the years and you put it into funds. Nobody is saying invest directly because they don't know. Put it into your fund. Take the top 20-25 percentile of the funds from CRISIL or somewhere and put it in the fund. Or put it in the fund of funds. You diversify risk even further. Put in a fund of fund, the funds will invest. Over 8, 10, 12 years, you will get an IRR 12, 14, 15, 16%, and the probability is quite high. And that's what they should do. I mean, this is easy. There's no risk. There's no risk, and poor people's money and all that is not a valid argument. That is an asset allocation model to take care of a way to get greater returns, right? It's an asset allocation model. 1% of annual compensation, which is 0.001% of total AUM.
And I think a fine example of this, of either public money or the government money invested in a wise way, would be the Norwegian sovereign fund. I mean, they are doing it so nicely in a risky market for a period of time. I think everybody is gaining through that. If they were not to have that fund in the European system of interest, it could have been a big...
Look, government spends 9 lakh crores a year on subsidies. Central government 4 lakhs, state governments 5 lakhs. Can't we spend 50,000 crores a year on innovation and growing the economy and creating high quality jobs? 50,000 crores. Government, state and center spend 105 lakh crores a year in the budgets. 105 lakh. Look at data. 50,000 crores a year. My government in Karnataka spends peanuts. How much money is the innovation? The IT industry is here. We contribute 20-25% tax. How much would they put? Nothing. Peanuts. You understand? It's nothing about thinking.
And they're putting money into state government bonds, which is so risky. You wouldn't put that money even from your own provident fund.
So the issue
and that's what the government has been investing in. So
that the issue is of a policy. So we can say that they should do this,
Leave it to
but it's a policy thing, and I'm giving you it may be antiquated, but the thinking behind protection and keeping risk out of that investment, which somebody has worked very hard to put together. But I have a flip take on risk, or I have a different take on capital. And what Sudhir said, and I really go back to the government and the incentives the government can give. We take the example of defense, and you have technology and you have various things that are being developed in India. So we have an offset with public procurement, you have an offset policy, you have various other ways that the government is supporting innovation in India. All I'm saying is, why don't we look for the markets that you're talking about, Sudhir? Why, if the government was to incentivize startups, and you'll have to define what a startup is and what a technology is, we have the startup policy, and that gets the person a market. So the government is saying, if you get so much percentage or support, technology, whatever, from a startup, you get this tax break or you get some other benefit. So incentivizing that way will be able to demonstrate a market. When you demonstrate a market, your value goes up, and I think capital will then tend to be knocking at your doors. Because today, the person doesn't have a market. He's with that amazing technology sitting at home and doing nothing.
It was struggling. Then came a spate of incentives for the IT services industry. Then it lasted for a long time. IT services industry grew. But the incentives stayed, by the way. I think more.
They're not there now.
Not there now, but I think 15, 20 years they were there. So that was a big boost as such. I think if I look at the more recent past, there's a spate of PLIs. A spate of PLIs. Now, we're still struggling with capital. The government of India has something called an AI structure, reasonably efficient, and I think government of India is also worried about, hey, you know what, if some things happen, then there's fraud, there's all sorts of things, cybersecurity. But capital has to flow into experienced people and given by experienced people. When I say given by experienced people, it means, okay, if it is insurance, they have the experience. You mentioned the Norwegian fund, very experienced people. You take CalPERS, very experienced people. Now, that may take some time, let's assume that. But I think I've suggested in earlier forums, let's think of capital PLI. What is capital PLI? Go back to tax rationalization for capital to flow. Don't control at every stage. Let people decide themselves. If there's a bunch of institutions who can take that and take that risk based on their own calculations of asset allocation, let them do it themselves. But capital PLI means, and I'm taking an example of AI structures, that look, why don't you put into these AI structures? These are seasoned people who know how to manage capital, who know how to give returns, and then capital flows happen from private or public sources into these experienced fund managers. India, I think, needs another 1,000 of them in the next 5 years. Whether it is coming from corporates, whether it is coming from family offices or institutions. If we don't do, to my mind, equivalent or something or capital PLI, the private markets are not going to come to risk capital. Not. It's not slowly. It is not going to happen. See, RDIF is a very good initiative. Obviously, don't know the detail that much. It's a phenomenal institution. 1 lakh crore is like everybody's dream.
Absolutely.
But parallelly, let's make sure private capital comes. See, private capital.
But I believe that's the thing, right? That it will not be more than 50%, and the whole thing is inviting private capital.
Even if they say
who is going to run it? Government here. That's the problem here.
No. Even if they say 50%,
Same guys in the bureaucracy of city, they're going to run. They're going to be transferred in 3 years. The FA will come and screw it up. See, so sorry, I got to give the instance. We went to government in 2015 and said we've got to have a startup fund. They said, okay, we need 10,000 crores. Jain Sinha got it done. Okay. Then they said, who is going to run it? We suggested SIDBI. SIDBI, okay. Why? Small industry, okay. SIDBI said no expertise. We told them we'll sit on the investment committee. Some of us sat on the investment committee, created 5-6 rules, very simple rules. We took decisions, we recommended, and we gave it to 50 funds, and now that is led to investment of 90,000, 1 lakh crore. Led to over 250, 300 fund managers coming. Why can't the government have a 50,000 crore which they've been talking about for so long in the manifesto for the last 10 years, like that, and create an investment committee, give it to State Bank of India. Like the Swami Fund, remember for real estate, the Swami Fund, it worked well. We need long-term funding, it has to come.
I think he answered actually. My question was, we are talking about these funds for some time, right? So is it really a risk when it comes to the beneficiaries is what something like, but you answered that actually. But the point here is, good that you participated and then there was a discussion and there was a committee formed and then there is a set of amount was actually given to them. But country like India, how can we scale is what the question. Of course, the point is.
One SBI.
You have one sovereign fund in Singapore, you have one in Norway. You have one in Middle East.
Give it to SBI to run.
You just need
SBI has
one.
got a balance sheet of 70 lakh crores.
Yes.
They'll run it, they got expertise.
just to answer your RDIF question, there's a 25%, 50%, 75% slab. Reverse. 75%, 25% has to come from private capital.
Yep.
The leveraging which fund managers can do on risk capital is anywhere up to 1:10.
Provided they run it, not government.
Provided the fund managers run it.
Fund managers, they give it to fund managers.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
The point is, and fund managers will have to go to GCCs to get the appropriate. They'll have to go to ABB and invite you to say, I don't know IoT devices, can you please come? So there is this ecosystem which is very, very powerful, right? You wanted to, today India doesn't have an engine, okay? Aircraft engine. So if we get Deepak and his team to come and sit on the fund managers IC, it is a very different world because fund managers are financial people. They don't have the sectoral expertise. So to me, there is a very strong, let's say, tango between the industry expertise, which is international in India, domestic in India. I met a youngster many years ago, 22 years old, who was working on stealth paint in a government company. Amazing. Material science is needed, right? I think funds can take that risk by putting this ecosystem together, because otherwise it won't happen. And that's what is needed to propel the whole ecosystem together.
So, innovation, there is no doubt there's a lot of innovation in India, and we have yet not finished our first question. But, I will just close it here. But I remember you were talking about that, packaging put in water and it dissolves in 30 seconds. I had heard from a former, secretary in one of the ministries that there is also a technology available in India to dissolve landfills.
Yeah.
Right? Landfills can be taken care of very, very fast, but then that's also not been scaled up.
No,
So the question is that, point is that there is a lot of technology, a lot of innovation happening in India. We need a lot of money. We know where the money can come from. We now know also how it can be done. You're saying?
We need better policy.
We need better policy.
Policies have to change.
So let's move. See, the first, quite a few questions have already been tackled. So,
I mentioned one leg which I think is very crucial here. We
Yeah.
talked about industry, we talked about capital. Let's talk about education. Okay.
yeah.
Now, I think and by the way, most of risk capital, 75% goes into technology. And technology at all levels, whether it is process or risk and model, business model, revenue model and technology. I think there is a very interesting, very green shoot stuff happening in the country. Today we are talking about replication of IITs. Today we are talking about replication of BITS Pilani or some of the other institutions which are there. But I think for the industry, the innovation industry to survive, we need, let's call it sectoral education much higher than what it is today. There's I think near the ISRO campus there is a space education center.
Yeah.
Now, it is critical that be replicated in the relevant sectors in the country, because you need more space scientists coming in. If it is material science, I've seen this work outside the country. And so that doesn't need a lot of capital, but it needs a few such institutions, because innovation with specialization is extremely important. And specialization amongst IITs, amongst BITS, is very poor, by the way. Because a large part of these people go outside the country.
Not now.
Today, I've just come from some education institutions.
No, IIT is 70-80% stay back now. They 78% go out, stay back, they become entrepreneurs, go to IIT Bombay, IIT
But
Delhi.
the number of people who go
Mr.
to
Pai,
India
they
is
still
also
go.
very
They
high.
still go.
No, they still go, not the
They still
same
go.
numbers.
But then that's, at least worrisome.
Indians is very high.
Yeah, worrisome numbers.
Number of people who do MBA is
Worrisome
very high.
numbers,
You want
and
an
especially the
engineer-
good ones go out.
Yeah.
And that's where I was talking about. So that's another choice we have to make and decide what is technology. How do you define technology? Because for us, technology has been, for most part, services and IT.
That's what.
But is it that? And is it the most valuable one? How much do we pay as a country to technologies, let us say, in energy, new energies? How much do we pay in the so-called old technology of steel or cement? We pay a lot unnecessarily. Now, if you develop these technologies here, like what you said, the sectorial technologies, we could be paying a part and developing those industries in a very, and it's a must. We need it.
Yeah, but it's not so easy, right? I mean,
it
there are
is
hardly,
not easy.
even the new IITs, of course, nothing is easy, definitely. But the point also is that even
It's not so difficult also. We have enough to build upon. I'm not saying that we have enough which will last for many years, but we have enough already to build upon.
Okay.
We have them. I mean, you go to
You're
any industry or a sector which is industry outside.
very good
It could be
students.
Europe, it could be US. You would find at least 20% of the specialists there, at least 20% as Indians.
Every year, you take the JEE Advanced and Mains. I'm just taking an example. 24 lakh students write that exam. 5%, top 5% or 95 percentile and above are the most brilliant, or at least we can say that they have the quant capabilities. That's 1 lakh. From 2020 to 2030, we are going to get 1 million bright minds. They should be the fuel for whatever we are planning for the future.
But why will they teach when they can go and make crores?
No, they don't have to
with a
teach.
startup?
They are the fuel already. They come endowed with those quant skills that are required to drive the technology focus that we are talking about right now. So you have the fuel right now. Second, that's what I was talking about, the transformation that we should have. We should not let the existing people lag, which is what Supai talked about, 350,000 chip designers. If you start getting 2 plus 2 becoming entrepreneurs, soon you'll have 2,000 companies. You won't become a big four. I'm just, you'll have multiple companies. Don't you have to have a large company which pulls through with all of these people? That requires capital. Where does that capital come from? That gets loosened and gets allocated from the various policy decisions that we talked about until now. So you've got the people for the future. When he's talking about data centers, he wants to drive that. He needs people. We have the capabilities right now. 1 million bright minds coming out. I'm just taking it as an example. I'm sure you will find a lot more from other places.
No, it's not a question of the capabilities, and I want to bring in Narendra and Faiz in this. It's what Mr. Sethi started off was in the education,
Right.
sector-specific institutes. My question is, where are the teachers? And if there are good people who are skilled, like you're saying,
You're asking for ready-made people. I'm saying that you have the people today. You have the people today. You just have to get focused.
Lokesh, one more thing we should remember here. It is not teaching in the traditional sense that is required here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is sharing of knowledge and sharing of experience and getting them to actually work for you in an industry. That is more important.
Yes, do internships.
Do internship and
That's
also,
not a problem. That's not an issue today.
That is not an issue.
It's not an issue. That's right.
and also you have technology also, right, to support that, right? Of course, end of the day, like, you can't have, you said engine, right? So if you have to bring bright engineers who can make engine, we can't actually bring the experts. Better you build in a virtual world engine and then put all your headgears and then you're just there. And we are doing it actually. We are doing it like, way in Assam or in some of the Tamil Nadu states. You can't have hangars everywhere to teach how the aircrafts are made. You can't have cars to you can have one physical car and you say ask them to convert into electric car. It's not possible. Bring a virtual world. Get the headgear. Let them have the feel. So teaching is not but only thing, the intent in terms of the investments what they are ready to make.
Lokesh, I would say
Quickly, before I go to them, they have been silent for a long time.
that one thing, in addition here, to the point that you had, that I think we have a problem in the reverse. That it's not that the teachers or the guys with knowledge are less and the other side is more. It's the reverse. We are not finding good, graduates and good students to come into our sector because all of them fly away to the service and IT sector. So that's
point on that. I'll come to it.
So I have a more practical take on this. I know there were some numbers of top talent being built in the country, but today if you look at it, we've got about 3,000 employees in India, for example. If you are pretty frequent and commonly using LinkedIn, for example, there's not a single day we don't get probably 20, 30 emails saying, this is my resume, can we catch up for a job request? And you at least I go through most of those emails and I realize they're not the right talent. But at the same time, when we have requirements for high profile candidates, it takes us months, sometimes a year to fill up that talent. So in reality, we are not able to find top talent in India as easily as we would have liked. Probably at a graduate level, yes, because you go into the IITs, you go into some of the top institutes and you get them at 21, 22, that's fine. But get into that range where you want them to be building and leading tech, leading innovation. I can speak on our behalf, it's been an absolute struggle because a lot of them either want to move abroad, they're already abroad, or they're doing well somewhere else. So that talent is thinning by the day and that's becoming a real struggle. So at one side, you've got multiple people desperately looking for work, have not found a quality job for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Now on the other side, when you have great opportunities, you're not getting talent to fill up that opportunity. So it's a bit of a complex situation we're going through.
I want to come to Narendra. You're the youngest in this room and at this table. So you tell us, because you are now the closest to what the education system is.
Data center is a new industry, and we have to train people. So what we did in Indore, we partner with some colleges and start hiring and training people.
Technical colleges.
Technical engineering, MEP, mechanical, electrical, and training. So we are doing right now. We have enough talent. So and the other side in the industry, there is a talent gap, because your 10 lakhs package become 50 lakhs. There is no competition in Indore and Raipur, so we are a little bit safe. People doesn't want to move outside their comfort level. But every industry has to launch their own courses and train their people. That's responsibility which we have to take ourselves. We can't say the government has to come up with the courses for this, because maybe it is for only 10,000 jobs or 100,000 jobs. For data centers, low gap. Only few people we hire to run entire $500 million worth of campus. And now coming back to the capital, which is required. I got a customer who want chips and data center. It's like a $280 million contract for 3 years. Now I'm struggling to get that capital. I have to deploy in 120 days. So I sat in Mumbai, hired some bankers, start setting up meetings with I got all large sovereign funds, not Indian fund, sovereign fund. They showed their interest in this, because this is a good opportunity to be in. But still the decision making and all these things are long process, like 6 months. I lose this opportunity which I have right now. And that's a lot many times I saw, because if there is say NIF is there, then the NAFID is there for infrastructure support fund for the project like us, because we are an infrastructure project, low risk, because there is something on ground you can feel, see, and you can sell and get some money in the worst case scenario. But still I'm struggling to get the capital because of the ecosystem is not that supportive. So this is another thing. On MSME, you mentioned Sudhir, 100 million MSME. The problem is India. I don't want to pay 2500 rupees per user, and my MSME has 10 users. 25,000 rupees, I don't want. So technology is expensive and people are cheap.
Yeah.
We have a platform where they are on a what we call faceless lending platform, 1.3 billion a month right now to these MSMEs. Okay, so I think there's innovation possible, but yeah, it's in pockets. I understand that. Just to go to this issue of money to the engineers, somebody said give them more money. Let's take ISRO. I've always seen when there is exciting work being done, right? The amount of we've seen in DRDO, we've seen in ISRO, we've seen some of the other institutions, BART. They go and recruit from the same pool, and by the way, they don't pay tons of money. The excitement of the work is so endearing. It's so difficult to pull out people from ISRO even today.
They're not from IIT.
Number one, they're not from IIT, and so I think there is merit in
Everywhere.
in creating organizations which are exciting product builders in the country. Again, I'm sorry, I'm going to repeat this. That means risk capital, right? And ISRO is an island of success.
That's public money. ISRO is public money.
It's public money.
Back is public. We need public money for risk.
Correct.
Yeah.
In
So
deep technology like China did.
It is time to go to private money for risk. But creating institutions, today you take Zoho, phenomenal company, right? You think it's easy to pull out people from Zoho? It's not. It's very difficult. So you don't have to throw money at the problem. That's the point I'm making.
Okay. Manish, what's your take on this whole education thing? You do a lot of high-tech work around pharma and healthcare.
So my take is, I'm going to also talk about this education thing, because personally I've been involved in Plaksha as a founder, in Ashoka, and as a company we've been supported. Personally I've done this.
University.
Yeah. And in fact the approach is very different, by the way, completely opposite of what we heard, right? In fact we are saying that mechanical, electrical, aeronautical, all those engineerings don't exist, right? Because when you're building a drone, what is it? Is it mechanical engineering, computer engineering, electronics, or what it is? So actually there's a very systems-based approach. And the world from a technology perspective is moving towards that, whether it's engineering or science. 20 years back, the world in biology started moving to systems biology-based approach. And what we actually need, and it's happening in some of these newer institutes, that are breaking down those silos and getting all these people to work together. And you see the curriculum, right, the way it is designed, multidisciplinary, students from day one, right, jumping in and doing experiments, labs, maker chambers, as they call it, right, on the ground. And I think that is what is required. And some of those experiments are happening, and they seem to be working well from what we see. Now, I think given all the stuff I'm hearing, I think the first fundamental, as a country like India, we've got to solve multiple problems, right? And we can talk about all those problems, multiple levels. But the fundamental call we have to make is, do we need to really make sure that while we solve bottom of the pyramid, tier 2 problems, we have to have tech autonomy, right? And the world has shown us that it's critical to have that. And for that, public money needs to come in, right? Enablement needs to happen. We need to attract private capital. China has been a classic example. I'll walk you through in my sector, right? US and UK primarily, right? A little bit of other European countries. All molecules pretty much came from there. All new molecules. India was obviously the pharmacy of the world for generic products. In 2015, China was contributing to 2-3% of the molecules being out licensed. Last year it was 30%. And I'm not talking about generics and stuff like that over here, right? These are new molecules for oncology, for rare diseases, you name it. Now, what happened over there? Couple of things. One is that they obviously had the bulk industry and stuff like that. They also, just like us, started working on the CDMO side, right? The whole clinical development and manufacturing side. They were focused more on biologics. So very specific, equivalent to GCCs if you think about it. Very specific capabilities started forming in China. Companies like Wuxi and all that stuff. Somewhere in 2015 or so, or probably a bit earlier, right, China decided that we need to have our own molecules. That has to be critical. We can't just depend on the Western world. Huge amount of funding, right, and also research scientists from China, from US, who are Chinese, were brought back to the country, right, at pretty much US salaries, chairs created, you name it. All that stuff started happening. In a few years' time frame, private capital was there, right? All the biotech investors, by the way, the biotech industry in US to some extent is being shorted because people are saying, I'm going to invest in China, right? And these are private investors out there. Companies like very few companies, right, like Beijing and all that stuff have become hugely successful, right, and competing with the best of the world right now. So we would have to take those calls, and it's not going to be about one thing. It will have to be about public funding. It will have to be incentives to private capital. It will have to be bringing in very specialized talent, right, leveraging our talent, but also bringing in talent from outside. It's a complex problem. It needs many things.
On education, I have a slightly different take. We are talking about today. I really want to focus on tomorrow. Our curriculums today need to be redesigned because AI is going to be all pervasive. Children don't need to go through the education that they went through 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Our curriculums haven't changed. And I say this by very interesting because last week I had a PTM meeting for my son who's 9 years old. Who's going to the 9th class, sorry. And he had to choose his subjects. And interestingly, IB offers statistics at grade 9, which I thought was a very important subject to have to skill the, so to say, future workforce in something that will be relevant going forward. Because what we studied in the past or what is being taught today may not be relevant for the future. So I think curriculum redesign is very important to get the pipeline workforce able to do work that will be required. Because today, one of the biggest problems with this huge talent pool fares as a very, the example you gave is an example across the board. We as a law firm I get about 20 CVs every day, none of which, they are not hired, you can't hire them. Yeah. But the person that I want to recruit is just not available. Yeah. And that is everywhere. And deep tech suffers a lot because of that. There's a huge gap between the needs that that technology requires, the talent that that technology requires, and the huge talent we have today. So I think we need to work looking forward. Of course, we can work with the talent we have today, but curriculum redesign is very important for the future of India.
I think a good point he made, but I can come back to the education in continuation of that. But taking the point on the private companies investing, right, I can actually talk about what we have done, maybe like last 2 months. See, India considered to be as one of the R&D centers where we normally used to say Dassault Systems R&D center with 4,000 plus people were placed in India to take care of other geos. Like, typically that was the trend. But what we changed from last 1 year was like, can we invest on people who can contribute for India? So with that, last week we had one more setup with 2,700 capacity in Pune. It was launched. Now, the challenge is the quality of the people. Like, we have a capacity. It was there last week. We inaugurated a big building with 2,700 people capacity. Now we need to bring in. But the advantage what we have again in India, where we are trying to look at, is every single role what we want to have as part of whether he is contributing to the product development or writing a code to the product. So we are creating a virtual companion for everyone. So for me, getting an IIT graduate or a talented expert, I know it's going to be challenging. For that, we can't stop the investment. But this is what, while we are doing, we are even talking to our customers also in India, because that's where you can actually less dependent, but you need a quality person who can understand. So this is exactly what we did. Every single role will have a virtual companion. And virtual companion can only support when you have a right structured data. And that's nothing but what we are talking about AI. So fortunately, with the legacy, we had most of the companies who use our software, they create their own IPs. So that means it's not publicly available. So they can actually easily leverage that and do it. But this is something which we need to start promoting. Not an AI which can actually do some automation at silos. See, I'm telling you, there was a scenario where multiple applications came into picture. I think being in services company, you can actually add on top of it. Everybody wanted to implement one or the other application to transform from what they had from their handmade drawings to whatever they do. Now, after a few years, the consolidation of apps came in. What will I do? Every single organization had like 1,000, 5,000 apps doing multiple things. Today, the worry is AI is going in that trend. Every single department in the organization is actually building their own AIs in silos. And I'll tell you, 5 years down the line, it may be a business for consolidation, which is happening now. But the point is, where are we actually? End of the day, it's a services opportunity.
That keeps us in business.
Exactly. This is very well known, right? And I tell same thing. If a manufacturing company, they ask me like, what do you have in AI? Yes, we have everything in AI. But where is the data? Where is the data? I can run some automation and say that you can go satisfy your CEO saying that, yes, I have implemented something. But the real challenge is building everything in silos. That same thing applies to education also. So today, we may say that the AI is the new trend. People are not coming to mechanical engineering, civil engineering. They all want computer science, and then they want go and then adopt for AI. The topic is, are they learning something which is very essential? So who is building the core?
On the subject of talent and the gap that exists between the desire of the industries and the reality, I wonder whether the gap is that big that it is not bridgeable at all. We really have to question ourselves. Exactly. Are we looking at the reality, or are we exaggerating the gap? Because if I go back many years, what did you guys do?
Same problem.
What did the IT guys do? How much did they invest? But they did invest, but that was not much. They did invest, but they invested in a very organized way. I know, my wife has been working for Infosys. She was involved in the training programs, going to the colleges, etc. Are we doing it as industry, as the sectorial thing? And I am convinced that if we do it, and it's not much, it could be a 3 months training or a 4 months training. Can we afford it? I think we can.
Alokesh, if I could come in, just to this point and the prior point. Deep, sorry, I don't mean to.
Go ahead.
Just very quickly, right? Three aspects here. One, since we are also in the Bengaluru chapter, what are we seeing when we go to colleges and recruit? typically they want, most of the kids who are passing out, smart kids, they want to be in Bangalore. Irrespective of everything and all the press and the madness and what Instagram says and what everything says, we have actually gone and built a new GCC in Pune, thinking that Pune is going to, give us this complete secondary state. But the reality is they don't want to go to Pune, they all want to come to Bangalore. And I'm not talking about kids from southern India, I'm talking about from across the country. So there's one aspect over there, is that Bangalore is still the overwhelming choice of all graduates from any A-list college or university within India. That's one. The second point is there are companies who are putting in a lot of money into academia of late. I can speak for ourselves. We're investing a huge amount of money. We're building academia programs. I had a large team just to support academia. But it's still not solving our recruiting problem in that sense in terms of quality. So the SAPs of the world, the Ciscos of the world have historically had very large campus-run programs, academia-based programs. So it's there, but that's still not converting to, we're getting the low end, we're not getting the high end as we'd like. And Bangalore, just to reiterate, overwhelming favorite even now.
Anybody coming to Bangalore can shift a job in 2 years and get 30% more. Lot of jobs. There are 25 lakh people here. And if you get married, your spouse can also get a job and keep shifting, which you can't get in other places. Right? And you get a great life. In 5-6 years, you can earn very good money. And it's a great life. So people come here. So I see the jobs, 25, we hire 150, 200,000 people in tech every year. Now he spoke about people. Same problem in 94, we created people. He'll have the same problem because he wants a collection of highly specialized talent, which is very disparate in every place. You have to collect them or you have to grow them, and the chip industry has grown them. So they're enough for them. So other companies are coming. Now you want to design an aircraft, go and poach 10 of his best people, double, triple their salary and get them. What is there? I go to him, get the best robotics engineers.
You better take care of him.
That's exactly my point. I don't think we have a talent problem. So human, financial, and physical is what we started talking about. Financial is there, but policy decisions to release it. Human, we don't have a problem.
You've been big. Despite all this, you've grown, right? You've done well.
Yeah,
and you're going to do well in the next 3 years.
We have no choice.
Just take from 2020 to 2030.
I think that's the least of our problems.
No, you're going to have 2.5 million bright minds, the brightest minds. Better. That's more than entire Europe put together.
Venkat, my question to you.
Yeah.
What about the IT services industry? It was sort of and you were there in that industry for a very long time. It was sort of the harbinger of technology, high tech, everything, and it sort of has become, like you said, right? Now more than 90% people are going for services. The point is that if you look at from a student point of view, my son is an engineering student, so I can see it through his lens. Most engineering students want to do CS.
Yeah.
Because they want to get a job with you.
Correct.
Or TCS.
That's the past,
or
is
somebody.
what I'm saying. That's the past.
No, it is still there. It is still there.
This is where I would go with what Manish talked about. You need the bright mind.
But to your point on education, if you were, for example, when the AI wave started in India, TCS didn't have anybody who knew AI in their 500,000 workforce at that time. Right? So they said we have to train everybody.
Correct.
So they started training everybody. I'm sure you would have also done it. All other companies would have done it. What did you do with that training? Is it only to improve the services of your clients? To your clients.
Absolutely.
Correct. The point is, when a vast majority of India's bright tech minds are coming to IT services industry, how are you going to make sure that the innovation angle is taken forward more rather than just serving clients? Is it something that is not part of their business?
We've got 167,000 startups in this country, 22,000 funded. And each one of them, if you take 500,000 techies are there in the startup industry. 500,000. That's a very large number for any country. And that is growing. Each year they add 50,000, 60,000.
You have to, like we set up an office in Bangalore last month. And my Indore base salary was 50 lakhs, paying all the employees 50 to 1 crore, something like that. Right? Here I have to pay 5-6 crore. And only I got few peoples, and still we are trying to get people, and we have to pay 2x minimum. But we have to be in the cloud, like we are building a cloud platform. We wanted to build to do the vertical integration. because without that you can't sell
See,
private AI.
Anthropic is coming here. They want to have 500 people in AI. They're going to pay 1 crore each.
They'll get it.
Everybody.
Yeah.
So they're available.
So the people.
They have got the
problem is
capital.
Why
problem.
is Faiz not getting the people that he's
He's not paying.
Why are you
No,
not getting
no,
the
it's actually, I'll tell you the challenge with one example, okay? If I take prior to COVID, 6 years back, when we were looking in India, because you take Infosys, TCS, Capgemini, Accenture, they all are Dassault Systems partners.
Yes.
They are super duper implementation partners across the globe. But when I used to go and ask them, nobody wanted to work for Indian projects. Let me be very clear, because for whatever reasons. But this has changed drastically now. So every single project I sit with the team. Where the real challenge is, they have the talent, because people who have worked on projects in US, Japan and all, they want to contribute back to India, and then they know they might have made enough money for whatever reasons, and now they are ready. And all these companies. But the real challenge, being a product company and being a services organization, they are not, their expectation is same from the OEMs. So they are not yet ready. Maybe the challenge, like, when the question goes back, if you actually offer them high salary, what an American company is doing, you can definitely retain. You can offer him whatever facilities, you can retain them. But is something India ready to invest in that scale, which is happening now? I'm not saying that no, but it is taking time. See, for any implementation, if I go to company, like I can't name, but I mean, if I go to a big services company, they say every project it can be a 100 million project. So it's still yet to come in India. If that starts, then automatically your pay will increase.
Space tech industry, which was not there 3 years ago. Man.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying.
3D printing of space engines, which probably using Dassault technology.
Exactly.
And how did it come up in 3 years? There's nothing. It came up because there's a funding, they raised money, there was demand, they gave orders, it came up.
So I think maybe some of the companies which we have funded in similar areas, they are facing slightly different problems, but slightly the same. The velocity, see, the businesses grew in our mind in the last 10 years in a very certain environment. If I take the next 5 years, the environment is very uncertain. Product life cycles have gone to less than half, which means the velocity of change is much more rapid than it has ever been. And I'm saying this change in every one of our companies which is doing products right now. In one of our companies which is services, it's the same thing. Because the customer says today, I want AI level 1, AI level 2, AI level 3. You go customer to customer. So each, to my mind, institution can't be saying, I don't have people, I don't know what to do, because they're doing it themselves.
Yeah.
So to my mind, a certain amount of budget in retraining has to be there.
It is there.
Their own existing people, we can't lose existing people.
They're training.
That's the training again. But now the thing is, the training has to be of a higher level. Because new technologies, new products, new and faster. I mean, the pace is, we've not even seen the pace which will be there 3 years from now.
All of them sell to the market, they're training their people, they got money. If you think they don't know, they know much more than them, we know much more than them. All of them are training, they're pouring money to
only
train.
thing, it
So
is
we don't
becoming
have to worry
very
about training
dynamic,
people.
very dynamic.
Dynamic, they will train. They
Much
will
more
go to the
dynamic.
market. They know what the market is, they will put money, they will train survival for them. Why do we worry about them?
No,
Let's
we're
not
not
worry
worriing
about
about
service come, they'll take care of themselves, they'll do well. Because to implement AI in enterprises, there's nobody else in the world but the service companies.
Exactly.
Enterprises globally cannot use AI. They have no capacity. These are the companies who are going to do it for them. The MIT report said 95% of this Gen AI projects have failed because they can't implement. So let us focus on innovation. Innovation requires a new mentality, product first mentality. Service first mentality is not product first mentality. That requires a different kind of people. We got a critical mass of 500,000 people plus all these R&D people. We've got to go and poach. We got to go poach. Then we said they're ready to be poached. Because why they're fed up of making too much of money.
I'll say that again.
I said it's very dynamic, right? In a very funny incident, I was talking to one of the biggest automaker, we give all the design, technology is fine, you have good engineers, everything is fine. You know what the problem is said? Consumers are telling me, I'm not buying this car because the app is not good. Come on, I spent lakhs of rupees on my engineering, and somebody is deciding, saying that the app is slow. They have to divert the talent, they have to train somewhere else. So this is what the dynamic talent, that's where you need to be ready with investing, and people are getting an opportunity. If somebody can actually, we started to do that. We gave somebody want to buy a car on an app, we build them. So you see, you do everything and they're okay, right? It's not that lifetime you're going to buy. You can buy a car and then next year you can change. So the expectations are different.
The largest hiring for Dassault in the world here, You ask Faiz, where is the largest hiring
India.
for
Nutanix.
Nutanix? It is here.
Here.
You ask any MNC, am I right?
We don't have a talent issue.
Just listen, there are talent is in two pools in my head at least. One is business as usual talent, which is what Mr. Pai is talking about, right? All the services companies. And then at least I would call it bend the curve
But
talent.
because short globally.
Yeah, so bend, why is Meta paying $1 billion, 100 million,
it's
whatever
not
it is? That's
globally,
challenge.
right?
Those are places where you would have to fight for the talent, right? Out there. Business as usual is where the training and all this stuff. Those systems we have cracked.
Yeah. So they
But
go
Manish, one thought here.
You don't get people, they come here, right?
Yeah.
One thought here. Even the bend the
Curve, yeah.
thing talent. In many sectors, not in all sectors, not in the breakthrough sectors, but in many sectors, it is possible to be done only by the existing people. Without the knowledge of the sector, without the knowledge of the domain or the application, it's highly impossible to make any progress or any innovation there.
We are seeing that in AI, by the way. When you're implementing AI, you need to use the knowledge engineering existing processes for the nuances.
Or else what's AI
Absolutely.
for? If
Absolutely.
I don't know how to implement AI into my systems,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's of very little use to me.
Manish just converted the people problem to a capital problem because you have to pay $1 billion to that guy. You have to have capital. So it all comes back to capital.
Innovation at the top 1%, they're the global shortage. Now look at the world. Japan is innovative. Do you have talent in innovation? No. Europe. Which is the big AI company in Europe? No. Only in America. Why America? Unlimited amount of money.
Capital.
Capital. R&D happening everywhere else. They got a critical mass. And the whole world goes there. You understand? And America's force multiplied is India. Without India being a force multiplied, 6 million people, out of which nearly 3.64 million working for American companies.
working for them.
America won't be the superstar it is. We are the first one, not for Europe, because Europe is not involving so much. So let's be clear. Talent we are producing, cutting edge globally is in short supply, highly specialized short supply because they're growing very fast. And for the growth, you can't overnight produce people. They need 4, 5, 10 years experience. And that mass should have been working long back. America's got the same problem. Europe, Japan has given up. China also got the same. China has invested money significantly. We have to learn from China, not America. America is capital surplus. China had a future view. They put money, $150 billion for the last 7 years into AI. They put 200, 300 billion into EVs and others. They built all those industries, gave them a capital grant. Now I just read 2-3 days back all this chemical, neon, and all this stuff.
Yeah,
they knew they're going to be short supply.
Biologics,
Biology.
cutting.
Never heard of this company. They suddenly come up. Like you said, 30% of the world. What happens to America? What happens to Europe? Gone. 30% of the world. They did it. See, we got to have a strategic view of where we want to be, put public money there and start funding and to grow to be a world leader. And we are not doing that because we don't have the foggiest idea how to do that. And we know the private sector and we need money, not too much of money. 50,000 crores a year in innovation for 3 years. You want the fund.
I agree. And the question I have, and it's to you and to everybody else, is maybe US has that head start and advantage because 60% of enterprise spend is within the US.
Yes.
Then there's massive domestic spend within
Yes.
China. Enterprise spend in India
It's low.
is still a small
That's
single digit
exactly what I
fraction.
said, yeah.
So we can
Small
go all
economy.
over the place, but the spend in India is still not large enough to support homegrown companies. Still they don't sell
You got to go.
or they don't work for US companies and
Yes.
beyond. Yeah.
Yeah, I think China story, there is inherent, what do you call it, when they, the person, the Chinese thought against America, that built their entire system on top of it. Now, when you see LLMs, all the case studies and LLMs comes with many Chinese name into it because they started sending people to and sponsor people for MIT and Harvard and all those colleges.
That was my point. You see, comparing with China, sir, is not
can
so
learn.
easy because
We can learn.
how can you learn,
course you can learn.
China can afford to send, 3 lakh students over a period of 10, 15, 20 years, go and learn all the latest technologies and come back and contribute here. You can't do that in India. Even today here in India, like you were saying about the educational, the sector-wise specializations, most of the sector-wise specializations happen outside India. If I were to look at a very top, let's say, automotive engineering specialization masters in India, who offers it? Right? Maybe IIT Madras or one of the IITs might offer it. Just select few students, right? That's why students in India are looking to go to Germany, they're going to TUM, they're going to Aachen, they're going to all sorts of places to go and learn.
But that's my point. What if you create 500 chairs, right, in some of the best places, 1,000 chairs, right? Get some of the best minds in different areas to relocate over here. The shares are paying them that extra. Make that tag. Yeah, there philanthropy will fund that. I'm pretty sure.
Us thinking by design is very new in the country. And us thinking at scale, by design, with innovation, in a capital abundant environment is extremely new in the country. Can we, so here is a model. If I look at it saying, okay, let's think massive scale, let's think massive design, by design, not by accident, and not late, ahead of time, and let's think capital abundance, because capital abundance is very critical at the risk level, and let's think innovation. To me, independently, these four are available in, let's say, what the IT industry used to call islands of excellence. Now you put all these four together, right? And it can't just happen by putting government behind it, because I think it's at every individual company level it can be done. But I go back to IT service company, I'm saying, hey, top 5 IT companies, services companies, they have $40 billion worth of capital every 5 years as cash payouts and dividends. And this thing.
That's not their business today. Let's not go on the wrong path again and again. That's not their business. Let them run what business they have and do well in the AI world. That's not the business. Not going to happen.
I'm giving an example.
No, the example will not
I'm
work.
saying there's enough capital in private industry. That same capital in the IT service industry is coming to family offices, and family offices are putting money into innovation.
Absolutely.
So it is small and disparate.
Yeah. Can the sectorial or the domain industries learn from what the IT services company did maybe 3 decades back?
Yes, they can learn, and the important point is very clear.
Because you guys scaled up from almost nothing.
See, we address the global market, and not the Indian market. We are global players right from the beginning. You address that time the industry in India was 1 billion. The global market was maybe 300 billion or 400 billion. We grew. We are now 235 billion out of a 1.2 trillion market. Our Indian industry now, we got huge players, $500 billion companies listed in the market, right? 500 or 600. Now, if they want to grow 15% a year, they have to look at global markets. It's happening in a small two-wheelers. We export some 3.2 million two-wheelers. We're doing well. Cars. We're the third largest producer of four-wheelers in the world. About 650,000 cars. And I was looking at BYD. BYD has got 110,000 people in R&D and design. Now, which country can have 110,000 people in R&D and design in automotive? Only India. Now, all this Suzuki, Gizuki, I keep telling them, please come and get more R&D, create 5 platforms at the same time and grow this 5 platforms. It can happen here. We got Dassault, we got all the engineers, we can do it because we got that talent. So, our industry has to think of scale. We are the second largest producer of steel. We are the largest producer of two-wheelers, third largest four-wheelers. Now you put the stupid 40% GST on that vehicle, we are global producers in quantity and quality of small cars. Why can't you go to the SUVs and export them? Focus on that. So grow scale. The scale in all these industries is coming, but our industry has to think of globalization, but they're making so much money here, they don't want to go. Bajaj Auto earns 23% operating margin. Which two-wheeler earns 23% operating margin in the world? Maruti earns 13 to 15% operating margin for cars. Which one? Because we got high tariff barriers, they're protecting them. Steel. Jindal said, we earn 13 to 15% operating margin in steel, China earns 4 to 5%. 13 to 15%, they're making so much money, then they go crying and they get this. So they got to think of scale, and it's beginning to happen, for which, I'll just end with one point. You know, just think of this as a financial newspaper. There are 2 things that develop countries. Labor productivity, capital productivity. Labor productivity is happening. It takes time, it's happening, right? We are getting very good in some areas. And you know, our Vikram Kiloskar told me before he passed away that Toyota plant in Bengaluru has got better productivity than Tokyo.
Yes.
He told me personally, I believe it. Now, that is labor productivity is growing. Capital productivity. You look at all $4 trillion plus economies, United States, China, Germany, Japan, India, then below that, UK and France. Almost all of them have got cost of capital of about 6 to 9%. Our cost of capital is 12 to 14%. With 12 to 14%, can you do great things and invest and take the risk? You need high returns. We got to lower the cost of capital. For that, create more liquidity, short end of the yield stuff. Reduce the India risk. India is bad policy, tax terrorism, lack of justice, lack of court. We got to tackle that and reduce that and make sure that borrowing cost comes down, so everything becomes viable to higher level. Cost of capital comes down by better policy, and make sure we get enough capital in the system, lower it so we can grow. I think, you see, we have a very big issue in this country at a conceptual level, at the economy level today. How do you bring the cost of capital down? Because no $4 trillion economy has a high cost of capital like India. Can you grow 10 trillion in 10 years? We can, but we've got to bring this down.
Yeah. If I can add one more point to that, all that you said is very right. If I have to add another point, and that is the poor infrastructure. If you really have to get into manufacturing and get into export, not with our infrastructure, not with 14-15% cost of logistics, and not with our ports, which are incapable of shipment at all.
No, again, the same thing comes like,
if you don't take care of the infra part in the next thing, I wish we had maybe 10 Gadkaris.
It's happening, but it's an interesting topic he brought, infrastructure. Now we talked about like, the technology adoption, India being like, doing what exactly the other part of the world are doing. Now it's a question again, like, infra is something which India can really do a great wonders if they start putting more money on the innovation there actually. We talk about whether it is aircraft or car manufacturing, right? You just mentioned that China has 1,000 plus R&D engineers for a design of a car. See, similarly, like, you take aerospace companies. And these companies, when they started, they had like 5-10 engineers using all the manual work to create. Now they are talking in thousands. That's already done according to me. We have to just follow. Now in infra, correct me if I'm absolutely wrong, you go to any state, any city, you hand-pick urban planners. So why can't we create urban planner itself as a workforce for India, workforce of the future, give them the technology? And why I'm talking is, we are doing it. Like, if you can build a car, if you can build a plane virtually, we are building cities virtually. We are building ports virtually. We are building air. Exactly. And in Bangalore, just imagine 100 people sitting and creating virtual Bangalore to simulate all possibilities, where the flyover should come, where the park has to come, where we have the people. That's what I'm saying. Now you are addressing many things here. No, we are addressing many things. Then nobody in the world has done. We have done it in Paris, we have done it in Lyon, we have done it in Singapore, but just as a technology showcase. But India, we can do with a purpose. We can do with a purpose. And if you imagine 5,000 people sitting and building a virtual Bangalore and give that piece to a home department, say that you look at like, how do you make this area zone safe? That is a revenue generation. Let home department give them. And you're generating job, you're implementing technology, then you take it to the world. So this is something new what we need to think,
Deepak,
what we need to
on
follow.
a lighter note, which talented urban planner will want to work with BBMP?
No, see, that's the problem. That's the issue.
That's a realistic problem. He's a talented person.
Even
he goes and tells his friends, people he looks up to, that I plan to stay back in India and I'm going to align with.
Why is Babu is doing it?
Fair.
In fact, you're right.
Why should urban
when I was there, I can make this statement like, when I was presenting to him in his earlier tenure, Babu, so he stopped me and he said, I'm going to talk on your behalf, he said. So somebody asked him, saying that, oh, it's all futuristic, I can't build virtual Amravati. He said, I'm looking at 30 years from now. So if I don't have, I can't plan a commute which is 50 minutes from anywhere else, from anywhere to anywhere. So I have to simulate. Then you bring your AI, then you bring like, whatever technology. But I'm not talking about a walkthrough. I'm talking about the real physical data. So which actually talks about like, we did it for the local Bangalore. You're right. And there are challenges. We simply did a simple example on like, if I have to really put a new road to airport, there are a lot of issues that trees cannot be cut and all. You can simulate and see where the trees will go. And we have done an exercise where you can save trees and create the road.
Maybe that's the strong link between infrastructure and capital. Maybe we are not able to put up the capital. So is it really diverted? Is it invested correctly?
15-year money at 7% to build a road. Man, we can build roads.
Yes.
7%. Instead of that, they have to borrow 9, 10, 11%, not viable. Then the cost comes to us. We have to lower the cost of capital by making sure the banking system is better. Liquidity at the short end. 5.5% overnight money is crazy. And 10-year money is 6.4, 6.5. Where is the slope? Correct? So we got to think anew and make sure the capital is released. And once the cost of lot of things, infrastructure becomes viable at 7%, 8%. Correct? It's not viable 11, 12%, right? As a venture capital, you want 20%. I want 20%. Where do you get 20? We live in hope that we will make 20%, we will not make 20%. But the fact is, for real infrastructure, we need 15-year money, 30-year money. We got to create that. We've not been able to think through that. We have to lower the cost of money, and we have to use technology for simulation, and we can do that. So I think a lot of is happening at the edge, not happening on the base.
Exactly.
But it will happen on the base over time. See, today, I want to end by saying, we are much, much better today than 10 years back.
Yeah,
Much
absolutely.
better today than 5 years back. 5 years from now, we'll be much, much better than where we are today.
As a country, I think I'll give you some fact on technology side that as a country, we are consuming 7 billion worth of cloud compute today. It is going to be 30
$7 billion.
Yes, it is going to be 30 billion.
It's 20,000, oh yeah, $7 billion. Yeah.
Yes, and $30 billion by 2030, 29, 30. And compared to China, is 13 gigawatt of data centers already deployed. Compared to that, we are only 1 gigawatt is deployed today. From this year, because of the AI, Ambani's and this recent news of Google, they started coming into the big gigawatt campuses. But still, we are behind because of the lack of low-cost capital. Because how you are going to compete with Malaysia and other part of the world, so you need low-cost capital long term. The good thing happened 3 years back that data center got infrastructure status, and because of that, we banks now started seeing as a long-term infrastructure companies, and that's why we are getting like 10, 15 years loan, and that's equally important because like as I mentioned the deal, which I cannot take that deal if I need to return my money in 6 years or 5 years because it's not viable, right? You have to continue to run the GPUs and put the GPUs every time. Like whatever the system he's referring, the behind the scene is the GPUs which can simulate, create a digital.
And it has to be on cloud.
And that has to be on the cloud, and not any enterprise in the country is buying the GPU because one GPU is like equal to Ferrari. Buy Ferrari or GPU, you decide. So they want to lease it. Now if everybody want to lease it, who's going to purchase it? Who's going to buy it? Now the digital dependency of India is 90% on foreign cloud. And data center, 80% data centers.
90% of foreign cloud.
Yes.
Even 10% is Indian cloud.
10% is only Indian cloud, or private data center. 80% data centers today in the country is owned by foreign companies.
Yeah.
So if you remove the like Trump changed the policy, or like Russia, they removed everything. Now what happened with the technology, it is going to be very challenging for the country, and that's why we have to think on those lines that how we can build a self-reliant infrastructure with full control of the grid, and that's where we started thinking, and it's driven by the leadership, like our prime minister, our state chief ministers, and everything, and they have to think around that. Every state has to be contribute. Like, okay, I want to say India's GDP should be 10-15 trillion dollars. Then every state has to contribute at least $500 billion, and they should work on the like I'm contributing to my state. I'm telling I told my chief minister, I had a meeting, I told him like my contribution to my state is bringing this digital infrastructure in the state. Now your contribution as a bioscience, you create a data embassy or the R&D center for bio, and you enable that industry. Every state has to come up with that kind of ideas.
Electric solar panels. We're going to be surplus next year. Look at the capacity that's built up, right? We're going to be surplus. China is surplus 3 times the world.
But we are still starting out on solar cells.
But no,
so
but we are,
panels we definitely.
we are starting off on that
silicon.
The silicon thing we're starting off. Yeah. But in the panels and all, we are surplus.
Yeah, exactly.
Silicon, we're going to be, Adani is putting up, Reliance will put up, the factory is going to come this year. In 2 years, we'll be surplus.
Yeah. One more fact, China is producing 1 car in 60 seconds. Now look at the India industry, like the family offices who is producing these cars, the manufacturer. That is the game changer because productivity got increased and the cost got reduced.
Yeah.
So you have to be, this is one adoption which is good in a car, but others, look at the other segment, other industry.
When we are talking about infrastructure, we've been largely talking about urban planning and roads and all, but what about if we have to, Bajaj you said, has operating margins. Bajaj, I think, exports about 50% or maybe more of its vehicles out of India, and most of them go to Latin America and Africa. The margins are higher because they go to these kind of areas. But what about deep sea ports. India doesn't have a deep sea port.
Very
India has to, what about ports and airports and that kind of infrastructure?
Yeah, airports are better.
Yeah.
Ports are miserable.
improving, not
Miserable.
better.
And that. But of course they have something.
Using Sri Lanka and Singapore.
Vizianagaram is coming.
Vizhinjam port will come.
That port is coming.
No, but that is, Mr. Pai, that is, it doesn't cater to even 1 or 2% of the requirement.
Yeah, but it's 1% better than zero.
The
Yeah, some-
Cochin has come up, I mean the Kerala one, yeah. But that's been in the making for many years.
Again, like, how do you put a timeline and make it happen by leveraging whatever technology you can? That's the only way to
China's
do
got
that.
10 companies or
Exact-
15 companies like L&T. We got
Yeah.
one L&T. We need 15. But the good news is, at least 10 construction companies have got more than 4,000 crore revenue now. 5 years back, they were 2 or 3.
Yeah, and when you talk about the ports, just to give ourselves an idea, 25 years back, 80% of the market for the port cranes and systems were from Europe mostly.
Now it's China.
Today, 80% is in China. Within 15 years, they just changed it.
There is global turbulence that we are currently witnessing. There is a technology aspect to it. There is a regular shift which we see every day, or maybe when we wake up in the morning. And so how do you see that affecting and how Indian companies need to navigate?
Is it
From
affecting our
technology
business?
There's
So I
one
think-
perspective. I mean, if I also just take Narendra's perspective here, right? Because of what's happening, as you rightly said, say the Trump tariffs, for instance, there are a lot of companies off late looking not to go all in 100% on, say, an American company. Let's say it's a hyperscaler, it's a large data center, it's an AWS, Google, whatever. They don't want to put all their eggs in one basket because they don't know how that may change. So they may be happy to go and look at Narendra's company to probably put certain workloads over there, work with us. Just generally, we're seeing a change in philosophy and policies within companies, large enterprises, especially Indian government, other enterprises, because of those things. That's one thing we're clearly seeing in the last few months. We had heard of this in other parts of the world. We're starting to see this pretty often now in India itself, particularly from an Indian government, public sector perspective. It's quite rampant right now.
We, in some of our companies, couple of incidents, I think was really gladdened my heart. When tariff was introduced, in 3.5 months, one of our companies diversified from US into 20 other markets. It's in the robotic humanoid space, and successfully. Okay, and this was the speed at which they did was amazing. Just before COVID, we were talking to some of our companies on manufacturing. That time the China Plus One was slowly emerging, etc. But post-COVID, the rapidity of local manufacturing with all the problems of logistics really shot up. Today, we have about 600 manufacturing and subcontracting units in India overall. And many of our entrepreneurs have stopped thinking like China Plus One, it's India plus something else. So it's very heartening to note that. But yes, logistic cost is still very high, supply chain cost is still very high, etc. The full supply chain doesn't exist in India, in most companies.
You're missing one important thing in your newspaper. The rise of contract manufacturing in India. You guys look at, all of you, the analysts, look at FMCG revenues growing at 2%, 3%, lever is not growing. Lever is outpriced in the market.
Yeah.
Lot of small brands have come up. They're going to the contract manufacturer where lever goes, get the product done, manufactured and sell with fantastic packaging. Now we're all getting Diwali gifts. How many of those Diwali gifts are from levers and Nestle? Nothing. All new brands.
Yeah.
New brands which you have not heard of yesterday. That means consumption is growing, things are going. Look at Dixon. Dixon is doing this quarter 25,000 crores,
Yes.
or some 15,000 crores, 20,000 crores. They're growing 50%. Look at 4 years. The entire contract electronics will be 5 lakh, 6 lakh crores. Look at the speed. When contract manufacturing comes, the manufacturing process gets deconstructed, highly specialized and scalable, because you don't have to buy land, put up a plant and everything. You go to a contract manufacturer and that guy manufactures for you because it's built up huge capacity and they work on 3% operating margin, 4% operating margin.
Because of the volume.
That are lacking in India. That has come up now. That is a big boon for manufacturing. And that was what made China big.
Yes.
Contract manufacturing made China big.
Correct.
Not going and setting up plants. Because setting up plants takes time. Now these guys are expanding.
Yeah.
They are specialized. They are focused. They are growing. And everybody can go get it done with high quality.
And the incentive for them is start here, but then go on to the export market. And that's where they make their money later.
They are a world factory and they are innovators too.
Great innovators.
Yeah, they.
Design follows. I think
Yeah,
what's
design
happening
follows.
is Design
Happening.
follows immediately.
Immediately.
Because designers can't sit outside and build something through a subcontractor inside.
Right.
But I've also seen one thing, it's taken us in 2 of our companies 12 to 14 years to build them or back them to the entrepreneurs to grow to $1 billion revenue each. Right? Now, I do believe that if some of these policy decisions and capital decisions, the India market has become a very large anchor to grow globally. Especially if you construct design in India, if you construct manufacturing in India at very large volumes. So if new companies, which I think is happening slowly, but if new companies are able to reach 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 crores in 5 to 7 years in India, some of them are trying to do it, it is going to be a very, very big change. But that
It's happening.
It's happening slowly right now, right? I mean, in our portfolio, 2 companies have reached $1 billion. It's taken 10 years and 12 years, another 14
But they
years.
started when we had 600 billion in GDP. Now we have 4 trillion.
I understand the scale.
But we have a competition as well, Vietnam and other market. The people who's diversified from China, so they are going on Vietnam and other market. Like we did when the BPO world moved to Philippines. So similarly, some Chinese companies are going in Vietnam and coming as a new.
China only for
No, but I think
Yeah.
there, I remember some of our companies going, Philippines was a big competition, but beyond a certain point,
They did not.
handle scale.
One is scale, and second thing to your point, unfortunately I can't take names, but those companies who are contract manufacturers, they were using our manufacturing execution system. Now they're talking, I need design solutions. I said, for what? I said, no, we have been getting the full package now. So that's where I think we have slightly edge from Vietnam, if I say, because you're not only just manufacturing, exactly, you're designing, because you know there is a volume in India, you know the behavior, you know the consumption that can be again exported. So we see that they are adding designers. That means the innovators, I should say. They are trying to kind of get into that. Of course, the OEM name will come.
At the edge, the growth is fantastic. Don't look at the base.
Yeah.
Look at the edge. And the edge is growing like this.
Yeah.
The base takes time because the base is so big.
Yeah.
The base takes time. So we get stuck in the base.
Yeah.
Oh, this is not happening, that's not happening, this is not happening.
It will happen,
But
it
look
will
at
come.
the edge. In the edge is going like this. Am I right?
I think one of the main reasons for Vietnam not able to scale up is the scale of talent. And that is where the talent comes into our benefit. We spoke about human capital. I mean, how many can they get? Philippines or a thing? It's not beyond a point. They can't. Because I have been asked many times, why don't you start a GCC for us in Vietnam? I said, I can do it. But are you sure you want to start it? Because we have a very live example in Krakow in Poland. 10 years back, it was a lot of hype. Every company in the world went there. Today, every employee in Krakow would have 2 or 3 offers.
Yes.
So I think government.
What's happening in Krakow then was what's happening probably in likes of Serbia and a couple of other places.
It will.
now.
It will.
It is.
That,
No flow.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
No flow.
yes, that is the human capital advantage that India can still have for at least 10 more years. At least 10 more years.
And India should, just taking the full stack approach, the infrastructure, which is the digital infrastructure, then the chips comes into it, and then the cloud, and then the application use case. But these 3 core, like chip, we have large designers, but we have to build our own chips because that's what we are seeing right now, turbulence. Because now look at they block Saudi and Abu Dhabi, America. What happened? They have to go and sign up, like I will put $500 billion, and that's how it's a negotiation. It's a war. And this, we don't have plenty kind of company in the country. We have to think like that. We have to think like America, and we have to, and our talent, and China, plus China. But our talent out there also wanted to come back. Because of this turbulence, Trump turbulence, many Indians who are resident now in US, they started putting money in India, buying a residential, like in Indore, one project, the one company launched, it sold in one day, all NRI. Now imagine the growth is coming, the India's GDP is growing, the fastest growing GDP in the world. So the advantage is the global market, the American wants to put more money in the country. But this Trump might, delay the process or slow the investment.
Do we have enough hardware skills in our country? I mean, to build chips and all this? Because Mr. Pai was saying we have so many chip makers here in Bangalore and all.
Because the fabs are coming up, the chips are not very sophisticated. We are in 22 mm. That will dominate because that is 90%. So it is all coming up. We got small fabs in ISC and all to do some taping. The taping will happen. We send it outside for taping. But
there are two things: chip design and chip manufacturing, and that's how the whole globe is. When you look at even the companies, there are chip design companies, there are chip manufacturing companies.
yeah.
Even the larger ones. So I
where
don't.
should we go?
No, I think we'll start with design. That's the easier thing because that's all about knowledge. The amount of investment that is needed for chip manufacturing is mind blowing.
Yeah.
That will take time. Chip manufacturing machine manufacturing. So we can easily probably buy those machines. We need not invest in manufacturing those machines and then start maybe a contract manufacturing for chips.
The energy security is most critical. So India should start like 10, 20 nuclear plant, because it takes 7, 8 years, 10 years to
There is a
build.
plan for the small modular.
Yeah, it's SML. Yeah, the small SMR, they call it the SMR. The Indian government has come up with, but we have to build large one.
Look, now we are all the same. We want something from you. Focus on cutting edge technology, create a positive narrative in this country. We don't want this stupid narrative, no innovation is happening, nothing is happening, etc. Innovation is happening. So the challenges of innovation, what is required, is put before everybody to debate and to discuss. So you guys have to play a role.
Yeah.
Of course, only say somebody there's 40 crores, 50 crores, 60 crores, that is enough. Those are all press releases.
We'll give you
That's
the
not
stories.
journalism.
Which have done extremely well in high tech, in becoming big.
Have you done about DOSO?
Yeah.
I know about DOSO.
Yeah.
What they're doing is
How they can
fantastic.
create cities in the
3D images. See, the 3D imaging technology they have, nobody in the global has. Nobody in the world has. They're top of the world and they do it here. Look, talk to him about robotics and others. Talk to him about what they do.
We have we have much more deeper technology than robotics also. Come and see our technology for steel manufacturing. We all underestimate that.
Yes.
Paper.
So
Paper
that was my
manufacturing.
question to you earlier, right? That you are developing all these innovative technologies and
Co-developing
co-developing with who?
with our principles.
With your principal.
Yes, many of them are actually.
Are those the technologies available for beyond your principal?
we can route it through our local units, of course.
No, I think very interesting, I mean, I have to talk about even 5, 6, 7 years back, we talked about virtual cars, planes and all, right? With Nimans, we did a project on virtual brain. One of the doctors were actually, a simple example, Krishnov is here, he was actually treating 2 patients, same problem. He was not able, both of them are not responding in the same way. So created a virtual brain and then just he had to change the position of the place where he was actually giving the current or the. So these are the technology which is available and there are places to kind of adopt in India. And we have stories.
ISRO is using it so extensively.
Yeah.
All digital, how does it respond? But anyway, I think what Mohan has suggested is already introduced competition between 2 organizations here. You can imagine what
No, we are partners.
Partner in many
So
cases.
And you better take care of your people.
people obviously we have to take care.
Hide them.
We need more people and we take care of people. But
I give instances of many things. I say, look, you have these fine steel sheets which go into your car, let's say, or a fridge. Or you have that at the end product. Ask people, where does it come from? Do you know where it comes from? What is the origin? The origin are stones, coal.
No.
Of course. You take ore, which is in the form of stone, physically and chemically convert it into those fine sheets. What about these advertising paper? Where does it start from? It starts from bamboo. It starts from sugarcane bagasse. So that is the technologies that are involved, which changes the physical structure plus the chemical structure.
and also the new theme which we are talking is design your waste is what we are talking. Whatever products you do, how we are going to retire, that is what important now because of the sustainability. So design your waste first. Again, going back to that. That's where the technology is coming in.
So, we've had a phenomenal discussion, but like Mr. Sethi had suggested, we will close with a CTA, a call to action. One call to action from each one of you.
I can start
As to
there.
what
I
we
think
should be
one of the things which all of us should do is, in our companies itself, promote the innovation agenda, right? Take a long-term approach, We are definitely doing that in our company. The second thing is, as Mr. Pai said, there is innovation happening in multiple places, startups, universities. I spoke about Plaksha. Partner actively, right, with that innovation ecosystem.
Venkat?
Help capital formation through the mechanisms that were talked about. I think the current government is, they do listen. It may take some time. Maybe we'll have to go ahead. We'll be dead. That's true, but at least go, but make a try, because I think it's possible. If they could come out with PLI, they could come up with something on this.
Well, I would say that the incentives that the government can offer are tremendous. The government consumes a lot of products and services that entrepreneurs produce. And if there are incentives offered, the whole ecosystem of change, of innovation, of development will happen. So I think the government should do that. There are many policies, there are many statutes that are stuck. I hope they see the light of day. The DPDP, the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, hasn't come into force. So I'm hoping things happen there. The AI policy, I hope something happens there. So I would just hope that impetus is given both on incentives and regulations coming into force.
0.1% of Government of India's budget should be spent on innovation every year by funding innovators. That is 50,000 crores. Government spends 50 lakh crores.
I think I will focus on release the animal spirits in domestic capital, potentially through something like capital PLI for AIs, and don't control it, let the animal spirits go, and you'll find innovation, because there is enough experience in the country to get that into risk capital. So it is very, very crucial, because I think many of the Indian companies which are coming out from India will get funded by risk capital. International capital is very poor in supporting risk innovation in the country.
So I know enough has been said with the capital and then the finance part of it. So what I would say is looking at the technology which is actually taking, we need to have a clear objective on how do we reorganize the data. So the simple example I give, we take pictures, we don't restrict one, we take 10 pictures, we take 20 pictures, and where this data is getting stored. 20 years from now, 30 years from now, when you talk about sustainability, it should not happen that we need to kind of optimize data centers, because you're just putting data centers to store something which is not required. So my request is, put a plan on how you structure your data to get better outcome from the AI what we are talking. That's the only message.
I would say I would like to play a part, and as a company, in unleashing the efforts of technology as well as manufacturing in the core sector, the manufacturing core sector, and probably even everything else except the IT sector, which is anyway on its own. And what is limping now, what needs help, would be the manufacturing sector. So that is where we probably can play a role. And that will be the technology probably for the tomorrow, what India needs.
The call to action specifically from my side is to move a lot more real R&D work into our centers. Real R&D work. We've gotten there, we've started, but we want to get bulk of the R&D work into India. We want to do a lot more product development into India, just then product support, beyond product support. So I think, and for that to happen, we need to commit ourselves to not settling for mediocrity from a hiring perspective, from a talent perspective. So using that entire ecosystem and do away with the current mediocrity that may exist around us.
I think if you want to be leader in intelligence, then we should own the AI infrastructure, data, and intelligence behind the data, which is like our people. Because when they started using outside country product, that intelligence they are feeding to them. So it's very critical for businesses, for people, for individual, because exactly they know what you are going to consume next. Exactly they will know that what is your behavior pattern more than us. More than us means more than our country. So the data, intelligence, and the application has to be in control.
Awesome. I'll just close with one small thing. Your point on redundant or useless data being stored, right? All of us have smartphones with cameras these days.
Yeah.
And when you go out, let's say you go on a vacation with your family, earlier we used to buy the reels and you would
Yeah.
buy 2 reels and make sure that those 72
We're
photographs
selective
are
in taking the pictures actually.
now we actually take 72 photographs in less than half an hour, right? And so what happens is, and all of them are automatically backed up to Google or somewhere
Exactly.
into a cloud.
That's what I meant.
So what happens is ultimately you only need 5% of what you actually put out there. So it's not only about what enterprises store, but it's also about what we do,
That's exactly.
right? Everybody, Google ultimately had to get rid of its free, Google Drive and the Google Photos. It was earlier free, right? I don't know how much I must have uploaded over there. Then they turned it into a 15 GB, limit, right? Because they just couldn't handle it. This was just too much. So such a waste of resource, and we are spending more and more money bringing up data centers to store what? To store photos that we don't even need.
This will happen. For example, the plastic bags were the innovative bags, right? When it was actually launched. And then suddenly it became a sustainability issue. Then they have to invest more on paper bags. Same way, when Google is being questioned, or I should not name anybody for that matter, being questioned, is being questioned in terms of the data and the heat it is actually emitting, then everybody will start putting a number to it. Then your data will automatically go down.
Yeah,
So it's
adding
like
to this, AI video and image generation. Now look at that. Every person, it consumes
it's
10x to
crazy.
100x more energy than a normal search or normal image you store. And this artificial data required a huge data centers.
Yeah.
And I think AI has to give access to only innovators and the critical work.
And today's discussion has been absolutely phenomenal. I think all of you would have enjoyed it. We have almost 2.5 hours here sitting at the table, and not a moment of feeling bored or out of place or awkward. It was such a wonderful discussion. I had to speak very less towards the end. I didn't ask anything. It was on. And it was an autopilot, but wonderful. The best part is that there were so many great suggestions that have come out. All these suggestions will be captured and be put into our report. And we will of course cover the discussion in our paper and digital. And we have tweets going out. We have our reporters here and the editor-in-chief. All of us have listened to your suggestions and to your comments and views, and we have also taken a lot of learning from it. And thank you all very much for sparing time and for coming for this discussion. Special thanks again to JSA for partnering with Mint to make this discussion happen.